What's up, y'all? Back again with another video, and this is gonna be kind of a ramble-ish thing. Look, I just saw the Magic Johnson discussion about Lonzo on First Take, and I'll get into that in a minute. But this is gonna be a Lonzo-centric video, so if you don't want to hear about Zo too, go ahead and bounce. You know how to do that. Anywho, so a lot of teams are ramping up their trade packages and trade deals and stuff to try to get something done um, for Zoe. And it's crazy how a year ago you couldn't sell Lonzo to a lot of teams. There were some teams, some executives and I remember there was an article that's like there's an executive who would take Lonzo and develop him. There's only one. Now you got several teams: Clippers, Chicago, New York, and a couple others out there that are looking at Lonzo and thinking, we need that guy. And you fast forward, because last year he had a breakout season with his shooting. This year he's having an overall breakout season. And there's still a lot of doubters for Zoe. And it's cool, it's crazy, it's fun, it's all that other stuff. But let's get down to the nitty gritty, all right? This is a 23-year-old player, had 2 years of consecutive mass injuries that wiped out a lot of his deep growth that a lot of other players got. And people are still, matter of fact, hold on, I keep forgetting to do this before videos start. Put that shit on vibrate. And people still doubt this man. Again, I've given you guys the guidance to see Lonzo for what he is. And it's funny because Magic Johnson got on First Take and Stephen A. Smith saying dumbass shit, talking about he can't shoot when he's shooting 38% from three. Hold on, I gotta pop my power rate. There we go. Sorry about that. By the way, these are my favorite. The grape ones, I love these. But you got Magic Johnson having to school Stephen A. Because, there was a comparison about Zoe versus Fox. And Stephen A was trying to be like, okay, now that we've seen things, how do you feel about Fox? Like, would you go back and take Fox? And Magic understood what the pimping was, and he said, look, man, I like Fox. I'm a fan of Fox. I love Fox. But what he said was, look, Zoe got injured, and he never got that time to develop. And he was like, if you're looking for Lonzo to go put up 30-plus points again, he said that's not what he is. He's like, that's the problem. Stop looking at him like that. He said he's the more balanced player of the two. Stephen A. wasn't having none of that. He didn't want to hear that shit. But to the point, I've told you guys, he is what? The toolbox. He literally has everything you need and can flex to any position on the court at any time and fulfill that role. Versatility is a criminally underrated skill. Criminally underrated talent. There's not too many guys. Again, you can, and this is my argument for any naysayer for Zoe. There is something he can always have more than another person on the court at all times, usually at his position. There's not too many people you could say, okay, they got just superior everything in skill than Zoe. If you go start naming 3-and-D players, Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero, let's just assume, I'm not sure what they're shooting from three this year, but let's just say they're better. Let's just use last year, say they're shooting better than Zoe is, right? I think Duncan Robinson was shooting like 44%, 46% last year. Something ridiculous. So Lonzo is, let's say, a worse three-point shooter than them, even though he's shooting 38%, right? So you might say, well, he don't shoot the three as better. Okay, fine. But they can't play make. They can't defend at the same level as he can, and they cannot rebound. He gives you three other things and still gives you really good three-point shooting, right? So that's just your 3-and-D guys. Your standard prototypical point guards. Okay, let's use CP3, Rajon Rondo. Okay, yeah, we'll just use them. Well, he don't get the number of assists that they do. He can't play make like they do. Fair enough. But Lonzo's a much better three-point shooter than they are. He's a much better defender at his position. Not only that, he can also defend a lot of forwards that they can't. He's a much better rebounder than them too. Now, we may sit here and say, okay, well, they also score a little bit better than him. Fair enough. But I gave you three things that he gives that the other two can't give. And we can't sit here and dispute that that's not true, because it is true. Everything I said was true. 2 to 3. Again, am I saying he's better than a CP3 or Rondo in terms of a point guard position? No. But what I'm saying is his versatility of what he offers is always going to be an advantage for him most of the time on the court. Let's look at guards that score. So we got your De'Aaron Foxes or your Trae Youngs, right? Those guys go get buckets. Can he go get buckets like them? No. But can he outshoot them? Yes. Can he outdefend them? Yes. Can he out-rebound them? Yes. Can he out-play make? That's a question mark. I'm going to go ahead and say no, because I'm going to just stick strictly to the stats. They have higher assist numbers than him. Although, I think we all know, in an optimal situation, they not getting more assists than Zoe. We're going to keep that on the hush, though. So, they don't bring the versatility that he has. What they do well, they completely shatter him in. And I think this is, again, I've always used Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter. Ryu has a little bit of everything, not a master of anything, but he has a sick tool for every situation. Lonzo has a tool of every situation. He, on a scale of 1 to 10, he might have 7.5s in all of his stats. But someone like De'Aaron Fox or Trae Young might have 10s in like scoring and passing or something like that. But they may be like 5s or 3s in defense, rebound, and other stuff. Meanwhile, Zoe is just like straight down the middle, equal in everything, basically. You see what I'm saying? So he won't have the peaks in certain areas that a lot of guys will have, but he ain't gonna have the lows either. He's gonna be pretty well rounded, and that is something to look at when evaluating or assessing what a player is. So when I mentioned stop comparing him to Melo Ball. Melo Ball is one of those guys who could be an offensive fulcrum. You could sit there, put the ball in his hands, and he can go get you 28 and 10, right? But he's going to lack in some certain areas. Meanwhile, Zoe can't get you 28 and 10, but he could probably go get you 17 and 8 or 17 and 9. Is that bad? No, you'll take that. But the way you build your team is different, right? Again, Zoe is a glue guy complementary support piece to your weapons. Melo is the weapon. It's different. Now, back to First Take. Magic went out of his way to compliment Zoe. And he actually said, look, if he needs to go anywhere, he needs to be in New York. Those bright lights, Tom Thibodeau, he already has played with Julius Randle. They've grown and got experience. He said, and Julius can now shoot the three. Lonzo's a little bit better of a scorer and shooter. It was like they were babies, but now they're more experienced basketball players. If you put Lonzo in New York with Julius Randle, they're going to do some things. He's going to be exactly what they need. Stephen A. don't want him because he thinks he's a poor shooter and he's not aggressive enough. Fine. Okay. Whatever, Stephen A. At the end of the day, Magic Johnson volunteered, and he didn't speak just about Zoe. He talked about where B.I. is. He talked about Jordan Clarkson, too. He mentioned all of these guys. He's like, look at where these guys are right now. He's like, Clarkson is doing stuff he couldn't do back when he was on L.A. B.I. is now an all-star doing stuff he couldn't do back when he was on L.A. He went out of his way to compliment his guys. He went out of his way to let everybody know, hey, look, these guys have grown immensely since they left LA. And he also reminded them they're still young. They're still young and they could grow. And as it pertains to the trade deadline, look, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Of the teams that's listed, I want the UCLA backcourt. I want the UCLA backcourt. Yes, I want him in Chicago with Zach LaVine. I like the fact I would love for him to be on the Clippers, but Kawhi didn't sign his agreement this year, and so he could leave this offseason. So it'd be Lonzo, PG, and then the rest of that shit. And they don't have any draft picks. And then he'd be doing the same shit, having to try to carry a franchise in LA, and he can't do that. Even with Paul George, and they don't have the ability to go make any trades and stuff, and they don't have any assets. I don't like that situation long term. For a 1 year rental, fine. But long term, no. If we're talking long term, I would much rather him be with Zach LaVine. I want that UCLA backcourt. I think they would complement each other, but some just ran through my head. I was like, that's the light skin connection. Like, for real, they could be like, oh, that's the lightest skin backcourt in NBA. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. But I think those two got a mutual respect for each other. And I don't think Zach LaVine would question Zoe's discernment of situational awareness in the game. I think he'll play off of Zoe and Zoe will play off of him. I think they would learn how to get to optimize each other. And I think going forward, since this is a guard-driven league, and we're talking about, teams going forward. Okay, so I made a point on Twitter yesterday. Let's do it this way. And one of the points I made was, okay, this league is dominated and is going to go through four guys right now. Steph, LeBron, KD, and Kawhi. Those four guys determine if you're going to get a chip. Until those guys die off, and I don't mean literally die, I just mean until they, fall off the wayside, championships are going through them. Then who is the next guys? You could argue maybe Giannis and Embiid. I think there'll be players, but I don't think that's it. And we already got a league where we're dealing with duos. B.I. Zion. Let's see. Luka and KP. What's another young team out there? I'm trying to think. Because there's a couple of them. You could argue Zach LaVine and Kobe White. You could argue that. Oh yeah, Cat and Anthony Edwards. In the future, it seems like it's going to be young duos or, prime duos, right? And my question is, if you're going to compete against some of these other teams, you're going to need firepower, Zach LaVine. You're going to need IQ and defense, Lonzo Ball. I truly believe if you tell me I got Zach LaVine and Lonzo, I feel like you could go get the weapons you need in Chicago. You already got Wendell Carter Jr. and Larry Markin. Let's just say you got to lose one of them to get Zoe. Fine. I also got Kobe White. Let's say you got to lose him. Fine. Okay. You got either Wendell or Larry. I don't think you need too much more to actually make that work. You really just need another guy. You need another guy who can play defense at a high level. Basically, you just need a wing that's a strong two-way player. And I mean, who's committed to it. He don't have to be a guy that's getting you 30 points a game, but someone who's getting you 18 and he's locking up, maybe 2 through 4. You know what I'm saying? That's all you really need, and they'll be solid. Some guy who can go out there and get you 18 and 10 every night and play solid defense against the 4, 3, and 2. If you got that, you'll be pretty solid. And in the East, I think that bodes well for you. Now, again, you're not getting a championship anytime soon with KD, Harden, and Kyrie in Brooklyn. And then you got LeBron, and you got Golden State when they get Clay back too with Steph, and Kawhi if he chooses to stay on the Clippers or not. But when I start mentioning duos here, Anthony Edwards and Cat, I think Lonzo and Zach could take them. If I start mentioning Trey Young and say Zach Collins, I think Zoe and Levine could take them. Bi and Zion, that's gonna be a hard one. I can't even lie. That's gonna be a hard. That's gonna be a hard fought one. But I think there's potential there for them to take them. Booker and Ayton. I think there's potential there. There's some good matchups that could happen in a star-driven league, a players' league, where you got guys who are going to have the ball in their hands and dominate. You're going to need talent. You're going to need the guys. You're going to need to put a team around players that works effectively. Do I think I can go out there and draft to go get some forwards? Just think about it. You already got Wendell or Laurie. You already got a third weapon or a third piece. Most teams won't have that. Now, there's a lot to be said. I don't think Lonzo and Zach could beat Luka and KP in a 7-game series. I think Lonzo, I think they'd be pretty good offensively, but the problem is KP is too much of a goddamn animal. I'm a Mavs fan, so I know. KP does too much shit. He's a 7-footer with the highest release point of a shot in NBA history, probably next to Bol Bol. And he's a defensive stalwart who can get rebounds. It's very hard. He is a unicorn. It is very, when we talk about players that have flexibility or versatility, it is very hard to figure out how KP can be beat in a straight-up matchup. It is very hard. Prime KP is going to be a problem for anybody to deal with, especially next to Luka. But if we're talking about some of these other guys, I think Zoe in prime and Zach LaVine gonna get buckets to anyone. It's gonna be hard in a 7-game series. You gotta stop Zach from getting 50. And then you gotta stop Zoe from leaving his imprint on a game. You gotta take something away. But by the end, Zoe probably gonna be shooting 43% from 3. And he'll probably be 44, 45% from the field. I personally want the UCLA backcourt. Now, if he go to New York, I ain't tripping either. I ain't going to trip one bit. Madison Square Garden, Julius Randle, they're going to attract somebody. Somebody coming to New York. And Brian Windhorst was saying there's an all-star player who is going to be looking within the next year to go to New York. So somebody's coming to that motherfucker. It ain't finna just be Julius and Lonzo. It's about to be Julius, Lonzo, or some all-star level talented guy. Mention maybe be Devin Booker, Lonzo, Book, Randall. Boy, that's all I'm saying. But talking about other duos, Bam and Tyler Hero. I'm just saying you need duos and a phenomenal backcourt duo. Look, a backcourt duo that won a championship. 3 of them, Golden State Warriors, Steph and Clay. They're different, definitely different. But Zoe and Zach can shoot. I'm not sold on Zach's defense, but neither was Steph's defense good. But I am sold on Zoe. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of chatter going on with the boy, and I get it. But yeah, man. I hope that Chicago trade go through. I really do. I really would love to see the light skin connection in the backcourt. Really, I'm to the point, I've sold myself so much on Chicago that I'm not even worried about them at this point. I care more about the other parts around them, the auxiliary pieces, than I care about Zoe, Zach LaVine. Because I believe in that backcourt. And I'm telling you right now, even at this point, there's some teams that do not want to see Zoe, Zach LaVine in the playoffs because they're going to be a problem. If you load up on Zach, Zoe just going to pick you apart with everybody else if they got weapons. I'm just going to be honest with you. The best teams are fine. They're gonna do their thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, if there's a 7-game series, even though this won't happen because they play in different conferences, the Utah Jazz versus Chicago, I'm putting my money on Chicago because I believe in Zach, and I've always been a fan of Zach since he came into the league. And when they made that dumbass trade with Minnesota, I said that would be the dumbest fucking decision you ever made. You never trade a pure shooter with athletic ability and no conscience. You never trade that. You never trade that for a guy who cannot shoot the ball, but is an okay defensive guy and a semi-good scorer. You do not trade your best shooter and athletic offensive scorer for that. But they did it. And look at Zach LaVine now. And I'm telling you, if the Pelicans fuck this up and they trade so, you can go ahead and start the countdown before B.I. and Zion like, fuck this. Unless they get some pieces back and go on like a 10-game win streak and start winning and get into the playoffs, you wrap that shit up. Anyway, that's all I got. It's your boy. Y'all have a good one. Peace.